Good evening, my friends. Today we're going to talk about iscrology, or if you prefer, let's call it eco-theology or even climate theology, right? All these terms are interchangeable. This is not about science, of course. We are completely outside of science. We are in the realm of religion, we are in the realm of belief, of esotericism. I read some news today that prompted me to make this video. I read that many young people are getting vasectomies. At the doctor's office, they get vasectomies, if I can put it that way, so they don't have children for climate reasons. And that's especially true in Europe because I won't hide it from you, my friends. Once you leave Europe, there aren't really many people who care about that anymore. So you might say to me, yes, but the next COP is going to take place in Brazil. It's not exactly Europe. Yes, it's going to take place in Brazil. By the way, they're building a highway by digging through the jungle, cutting down trees precisely to make a highway. For the climate delegates who will come in large numbers from the United Kingdom first and foremost, right? So we have to realize something, that many countries in the global south today have discovered that the new victim card is the climate card. That means they go to European countries and tell them, well, you pay because we have undesirable climate effects in our countries. So when I say undesirable, think whatever you want. You can read whatever you want into it. Drought, rain, flooding, too hot, too cold, it doesn't matter. As long as you're not happy with the weather where you live, you can, well, ask for asylum in Europe. It's true. I'm not joking. There's the climate refugee system, which exists, but also you can ask for compensation. Talking about compensation means there are people entitled to it. That's the point. I'm going to tell you about an unimaginable scandal that happened in the United Kingdom. So there's a journalist named Mr. Sanders who contacted the Met Office. The Met Office is the agency that depends on the British government. It's more or less independent. But anyway, it was founded by the British government, which precisely measures temperatures, measures the wind, measures a lot of things, and provides this data to the British government, to the administration for decision making, right? And it's precisely thanks to these numbers, and as they say, you can argue about anything except the numbers. Well, this agency, there you go, above suspicion, right, declares that the United Kingdom is at increased risk of global warming. We live in a country, I've told you several times, where old people die from the cold. We have temperatures around 8 or 9 degrees in August. It's a cold country. It's a rainy, humid country. And what are we afraid of? We worry about becoming like Saudi Arabia, but from our view, that's not going to happen. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. Mr. Sanders, by contacting the Met Office, asking for information about the thermometers, because they say, temperatures are rising. Well, he takes them at their word. Temperatures are rising before I go get a vasectomy, right? Give me a little bit of information about how you measure these temperatures. So they have 300, let's use round numbers. They actually have 302 temperature measurement stations across the country. And those stations are connected, so they send the temperature information to their server, and that's how you measure it. It goes into a database, into an Excel file, and so on and so forth. Now, thanks to this request, they discover something. Out of the 302 stations, there are 103 that don't exist. So that don't exist. Either they never existed or they did exist, but well, they're closed. Like a station that was closed in 1996, but until 2025 keeps providing temperatures. So it's a ghost station, and like that, you open Excel and the temperatures appear as if by the Holy Spirit. That's why I told you we are really in climate theology. So now he discovered that some stations, for example, like the station has existed since 2005, except that in the Excel tables, they provided temperatures going back to 1959. So they were providing temperatures even before they existed. But anyway, he said, but then how do you provide temperatures for 103 stations that don't exist? They said, well, we do. We have an algorithm. We do interpolations like, you see, you give me the temperature in Lyon, and then you give me the temperature in Marseille. I can guess the temperature in Grenoble, which is completely absurd. But there you go, 103 stations don't exist, and the temperatures are completely made up by their crowd. So first of all, I'm not a Malthusian, you know me. But I'd like to say before going ahead with the so-called vasectomy, at least check, because otherwise you're just going to mutilate yourself for nothing. So on the thermometers that are left. So we said we've already eliminated 103, we've eliminated a third, there are 199 left. Well, out of the 199, imagine that there's what's called a ranking of the thermometer's accuracy. That means each thermometer has a margin of error, which is how we rank it. It has class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And classes 4 and 5 are generally what we call junk trash. That means those are thermometers that are completely inaccurate, so they're not suitable for use. According to the criteria of the Met Office and similar organizations, well, would you believe that out of the 199 left, let's say 200 left, there were 160 whose values were junk, trash? That means they make errors beyond plus or minus 5 degrees. He found, for example, thermometers that were placed on runways, on airport runways. So there's an airport runway, and next to the runway, there's a thermometer. When a squadron of military jets takes off in succession, you check the BBC and see they're reporting 40 degrees today in the United Kingdom. Well, 40 degrees because your thermometer is placed near an airport runway. They found thermometers because the guy, he went to check because the information is available. The guy took a car. There you go. I knew he was doing that. I didn't help pay for his gas. I mean, it's still a commendable job that Mr. Sanders did. He found that there's a station and there's a field covered with photovoltaic panels. And there, of course, you have a thermometer. You should know that photovoltaic panels are dark. They reflect a lot of heat. They give off a lot of heat. By putting a thermometer here, it's clear they want high temperatures. And so these temperature readings are provided to the British government on the one hand and to international bodies on the other, which will later be fed into a global temperature data set, allowing them to say we're setting records. Well, I could very well put the thermometer in a pizza oven and then say it's 200 degrees. That's it. Then give me money. I want to get a share of the good stuff too. I mean, it's completely crazy. And what we're doing, based precisely on these temperatures, is making decisions that are serious on a civilizational level. There has never been a referendum because when a decision is serious, when a decision is important, that it will impact people in a profound way, in an irreversible way, that it will affect them for generations, that there will be a before and an after. The least that should happen is that it must be debated freely and voted on. But that didn't happen. It's a decision made in secret, and what we want is what's called net zero. You have to understand one thing: these decisions will shape and change our society. These aren't just decisions made on a whim with some side effect like a guy pocketing a bit of money he isn't entitled to. No, it's much deeper than that. These are decisions that change us as a civilization. Now, net zero, which we're pursuing in the United Kingdom, which we're moving toward gloriously, which is even before Ukraine really our strongest civilizational commitment, requires the destruction of the British economy. In fact, if you look, it is being destroyed. Job creators are leaving, entrepreneurs are leaving, businesses are closing, and capital is going elsewhere. Even the US requested its gold from the Bank of England. We are in the process, by the way, participation. Why am I telling you that this defines us as a civilization? Even participation in the war with Russia and all the efforts to sabotage peace negotiations and Starmer's decision to send soldiers there, all of that. Why? It's to get us involved in a war that will accelerate the collapse of the British economy so that we can reach net zero. Because, of course, they want to achieve it. Net zero. Did you know that even during the COVID lockdown, with all businesses closed, empty roads, people at home, those drones flying over ghost towns, even at that level, well, it wasn't enough. It has to be worse than that. You need a nation of homeless people to achieve it. So the thermometer, the measured temperature, has become a highly political tool in this country. And in particular, the state wants to get high temperatures. And because it wants to get high temperatures, well, it puts the thermometers in places where they will measure high temperatures. It puts thermometers, well, imaginary ones, and then that allows it to have operational freedom to enter whatever they want into the system, you see. And on that basis, they're going to destroy farms. On that basis, we are waging war on farmers. We are expropriating them to give their land to large American financial groups. We are killing, they're doing it in the United Kingdom, they're doing it in Ireland, in the Netherlands, killing livestock. We are reducing the food supply for people. We are creating food inflation. This is lasting inflation. In fact, actually, they talk to you about sustainability and all that, but the only thing that's lasting is the decline. The only lasting thing that will come is inflation. The only lasting thing is permanent decline. That's the thing. There's no going back. I can tell you something. There is no wild card. There is no industrial revolution on the horizon that will come to save Europe once Europe comes back. Returns to the standard of living it had in the Middle Ages, once millions of people are going barefoot, and then there will just be a few elites like that living in castles with cameras and barbed wire. There won't be a new industrial revolution so that we can say, here we go, we've bounced back, we're coming back. It's just a choice. One way. Now, one last thing to finish. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about thermometers and everything in this book. By the way, I might write a version 2.0 because it's incredible. The professionals in the field who send me messages, who contact me, who give me information and everything, it's just horrifying. I'll give you one for the road. For the road, did you know that in the United Kingdom they've already given more than 2 billion euros to wind turbine operators so that they don't produce electricity? You heard that right. Just last year alone, they were given $500 million so that they wouldn't produce electricity. Why? And this explains the paths. Because the paths of the climate scam are easy to trace. That means if you start following the climate scam, you'll very quickly end up at the cash register. You'll get to the money. And that is very easy to trace. They don't even hide, actually. You just have to scratch beneath the surface. The only ones who don't see this are people who, since childhood, poor things, have been hearing the same news and getting their information from the same outlets, and in the end, they end up completely brain fried. And then they believe things that have absolutely no basis in reality. Because once again, you just have to look beneath the surface in official sources. The guy was at the Met Office. He heard it straight from the horse's mouth himself. He went to them to ask. All right. So these are official pieces of information I'm talking about. I'm not talking about information that just falls from the sky. So, as I was saying, these people, why do we give them money? Well, we give them money because, quite simply, we guarantee them an income. And that's the point of scamology. Look, the wind turbines are installed. They're powered by wind, which is naturally intermittent and uncontrollable. For instance, turbines may generate lots of electricity at 3 a.m. simply because it's windy. Well, we don't need electricity at that time. The demand is very low. Sometimes when demand is high, there's no wind, so they don't help. So what do? When the demand is too high, we tell them no. Rather, when the production is too high, because there's wind at 3 a.m., we tell them don't produce. Let the wind turbine spin for nothing. And we compensate you. We give you money. And that's why scamology is of great interest to the circles of financial power, the business world, shareholders, and investors. You can't lose. You invest in a bakery. Let's take a classic business. You invest in a bakery. The bakery is there on the road. Well, if one day the high school across the street is closed for vacation, or if there are school holidays, or there's a long weekend, or there aren't any people, you won't sell your croissants. And if you make too many, what do you do with them? You eat them or you throw them in the trash. Anyone who has run a business knows that's part of the risks. In business, you can win, you can lose. The green grifter, on the other hand, can never lose. Why? Because he profits from your money. Where do those billions we give them come from? In your opinion, where do they come from? Well, they come from our electricity bills. Quite simply, we're adding this money to our electricity bills to pay people who are already extremely rich to make them even richer so that they can, send their kids to a big university in the United States, so they can pay for private jets, so they can go buy helicopters, stuff like that. I mean, living on the Croisette, living in the Mediterranean, across from the Greek islands in the summer and all that, that's what we're paying for, my friends. It's exactly these people we're paying. So these people can't lose. Why? And that's why they love the green scam. That's why you'll see the moneyed interests basically obsessed with the green scam. And if they talk to you about it, they consider you public enemy number one. Because when you talk about the green scam, you know what you're doing. A book like this, what does it do? You're simply telling people that they're being scammed. You're taking the victims and telling them how they're being scammed. That's what's happening. Donc, a normal traditional business can win, can lose. It involves a certain amount of risk. A business based on the scam logic model can never lose, it can only win. You see? Imagine. It's squaring the circle that's been solved, it's perpetual motion that's been created. It's the business that can't lose, that hasn't existed since literally the first human walked on Earth. We just invented it, my friends. The business that never loses money. Like a wind turbine, it spins, it produces electricity. We need it. We pay you for the electricity. That's how it normally works. If we don't need it, you know what? We still pay you. I even wonder why we messed up literally the landscape to build these wind turbines. We could have just let these guys stay home and given them money. That's all. Add some money to our bills and then a levy, call it a levy for these people, and we give it to them for their lifestyle, a lifestyle levy, and we give it to them. That's all. As simple as that. There you go, my friends. Donc, I'm pointing this out because they can fool you with numbers. Be careful, you can be fooled with numbers because when someone gives you a number, you say yes. If it's a number, that's how it is. There's nothing we can do. No. Ask where they come from. How were they measured? Under what circumstances? Because indeed, numbers can be used to fool you. You can lie with numbers, just like the British Met Office has been doing for years and years. There you go. You can find the book on Amazon. This book is a bestseller on Amazon simply because people want to know. I promise you a version 2.0 sometime in the future. See you very soon, my friends.